Take It Up with Jessica Lee. I'm here with Mark Roberge, who is the Managing Director at Stage 2 Capital. Hi, Mark. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jessica. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'd love to have your thoughts on what's happening in the SaaS space. I know you manage a fund and invest in a lot of the SaaS companies. I wanted to get your thoughts on what should SaaS companies do in this environment now, and also those who are still in the startup phase. What are some of the key questions and how to grow that science of growth?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've navigated the last 2 months from just shoring up our recovery, like making sure we've got money to make it through 12 to 18 months if we have to. So there was a phase of that. I would say the next phase is one that a lot of people miss. And I've actually never met an entrepreneur that I think leaned into this enough. And that is how bold they re-optimize their target market and or their messaging. And so, as I was running sales at HubSpot in 2008 when we were in the early, kind of similar, really early stage and very fragile. And fortunately, our value prop was easily aligned with the post financial crisis. But I think everybody looked back on that moment a year later and really regretted not being bolder in how we redefine our context. So it's almost like you gotta this weekend when you have some alone time, you almost have to you have to pretend like you're parachuted into your business as a new CEO, and you look around and you forget about the investments we made and that kind of stuff, because you can get attached to those like babies. You can get attached to those. They're like sunk costs, right? It's so just look around and understand what is the outer market like right now in this post-COVID world, and what are our assets from a product perspective, from an employee perspective, from a customer perspective, from a partnership perspective, and rethink what the opportunities are ahead. That's going to be, I think, the biggest regret that we look back on. And then the final thing, which I think is very relevant for now, that we're starting to think is well, when should I start growing again? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
people are cutting
how do you
budgets
think
right
about
now.
that? Yeah, it's are we what's going on? It's we still don't really know what's going to happen in the future. I mean, knock on wood, the economy probably hasn't been as bad as many have expected. You're starting to see some budgets open up. You're starting to see some states open up. And who knows, we could have a resurgence. There's a lot of people out of work. So there's still a lot of uncertainty, but there's also part of that uncertainty is are we being too conservative? What should we be looking for to know whether we should start growing again, and how fast?
Yeah, I know a lot of the shift is to the digital. Instead of events, you're doing a lot more virtual events and finding new ways to engage remotely. And some of the new learnings will guide us towards a new normal when we have business again. But certainly a lot of SaaS companies are figuring out how they're going to go through this, but how are they going to grow once the businesses are back in full force again? I wanted to get your best practice on the framework, really. If you want to grow, you've got a great product, you've got some really good indications. And so what next? What to do next?
Okay. So yeah, this is where I've been doing a lot of work the last couple of years. This science of scaling, and almost right now it's best described as the science of reestablishing growth, when, where, and how. When should we do it? Where should we grow? And how should we grow? And if we tackle when, it's I think most people say when you have product market fit. And I think you've really got to you have to rethink do you actually have product market fit now? And so that's the first step is to evaluate. Now the funny thing about that is we've kind of we've popularized this concept of product market fit as a sort of a term to dictate whether we're ready to scale. And yet when you ask 10 people what product market fit is, you get 10 different answers. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, Jessica, nor do I necessarily want to challenge you or anything, but just what do you think is product market fit? Let's just think about for a sec? What's your perception of product market fit?
Well, you are definitely solving a pain point that the
Mhm.
market has, and there's no solution that truly addresses that.
Mhm.
You've got something that's very innovative and making a big impact. I'm sure that's a technology already. Usually it's not like a whole new category. I mean, usually it's like it's an innovation and improvement on some other products that exist already. But you've gotten feedback where clients are saying, yeah, definitely we tested different product and that no solutions addressing this pain point we're facing, and your technology is right on.
Very good. I think that's great. And it's funny because like if we, and I apologize, I know you're usually doing the interviewing here. I didn't mean to put you on the spot in
No
your show,
problem.
but but yeah, like you just get a wide range of answers. And I like your answer. You know, it's like um, a lot of people say product market fit is when your thing's selling. And I just don't agree with that. I mean, as someone who comes from sales, it's like you'd think I would be into that, but that's just kind of like market message fit. It's just basically what you proved is that you can understand someone's problem and tell them a story about your offering and they buy it. That's market message fit. You know, it's not product, market fit, right? So it has to be more about like that your product lives up to the promise, that it like delivers the value. And so you've leaned beyond that from revenue to more like solving a problem. I think the only thing I'd push on your answer is like how we can add a little more data and rigor to the analysis, right? Because like how do we know when we have something new that's important? And I know there are some approaches where they lean into surveying customers to see how many like love your product. And I think that gets closer, but I'm still like surveys are notorious for being riddled with false positive results, because people just like to be nice in a survey. They feel bad for the entrepreneur. They want to like, oh, I love your product, but it really, I would just be really worried about like letting as such a critical decision as when do we scale to be like left up to a survey that could
Mm-hmm.
have some false positives. So for me, what I like to look at, and now is a great time to be thinking this way because all the historic data is out the window. the churn rate, the close rate, the average revenue per deal that we had in January is no longer relevant. It's a new world. It's a new buyer. It's new buyer perceptions, new buyer priorities. So if any time to like perhaps thinking about re-instrumenting your business on a different mindset, it's a great time. And I personally believe that if I had to choose one metric to represent product market fit, it would be customer retention. Because that means, or like in our SaaS world that we're talking about here, and if you're not subscription, it's like repurchase of something, purchase more, right? Because that means that the customer experienced your product and had to go through a decision of like, should I repurchase it? Should I renew? Now, the problem in our startup world is if I sign up a bunch of customers this quarter, I really don't have visibility into their retention rate for arguably a year. And I don't have a year to wait to like understand, should we start growing? So where I challenge, the companies I'm involved with and even the companies I operated, which we did, was we looked for a leading indicator to customer retention. So something that would surface in the first week, month, 2 months of a customer's tenure with you, that if this thing happened, if this event occurred, set up the product, a certain amount of usage, like whatever, if that occurred, that most of those people will be a customer forever. And if it didn't occur, then most of those people would churn. And so that allows us to get early visibility. Just an example, I think out where you are, Jessica, in the Valley, there's some murmuring and talk about the aha moment. And I think that's a very similar concept. And if we just play with some of the unicorns today, like Slack, I've like talked to the team and also read about like their aha moment being if someone sent if a customer sends 2,000 team messages in the first month, then they're likely to stick around for a long time. And if they don't, they're at risk. So that's great. So now we can set it up as like, we acquire a bunch of customers here in May. And if within 30 days, more than 75% of those customers send over 2,000 team messages in the first 30 days, then we have product market fit. I think that is far better. That is rigorous. It's not riddled with false positives. It's the product delivered on a message. It's not based on revenue, right? So getting more toward that is where I like to see businesses. And it all comes back to, as the CEO, not the head of sales, not the CRO, the CEO defining what is that leading indicator of customer retention.
Okay, so let's say customer retention, you have a 95% retention rate, right? 5% churn. Then what's next? What do you do after that?
Sure. So you instrumented your lead indicator and it worked. And sure enough, your retention's playing out. First off, you don't have to wait for the annual retention to show up. Just, I would say, once the lead indicator percentage is looking good, then you're like, great. What you proved is that you can sign up a bunch of customers in a month or a quarter and have confidence that most of them are going to realize the value you promised them. Most entrepreneurs never get there. Most businesses never get there. It's a phenomenal foundation to build on top of. But you're just not ready to start hiring 2-3 reps a month yet, because you have no idea whether you can do that scalably. You know, because in this first phase, it's like throw everything in the kitchen sink at making your customers successful. I've seen great founder CEOs get onto airplanes to onboard personally customers paying them $50 a month, do unscalable things. It is hard to get 80% of your customers to see the success that you promised them. So once you prove that, now we have to take a step back and do it scalably. And in SaaS, we often talk about unit economics. We talk about payback period. That's a form of unit economics.
Okay.
We talk about LTV to CAC. And again, they're lagging indicators. So while they're very good effective indicators, we need leading indicators. Like if we want to end up with LTV to CAC of 3, how many meetings a week do my SDRs need to set up? What is my conversion rate from meeting to opportunity to close? What is my average revenue per customer? It's a simple algebra formula to spit out, like, if I see these things happening, I will end up with great unit economics. Right. So the thing, go ahead, Jessica.
So then you have to like look at each step and try to improve that conversion number.
Yes, I don't care about it. I don't care about doing product market fit journey. You know, I'm very like lean startup, hacky, whatever. Now I need to codify it. So the actions that matter here at go-to-market fit, product market fit, then go-to-market fit. The actions that matter here that did not matter during product market fit is number 1, I need a codified sales playbook. Who would I prospect to? How do I prospect? How do I do discovery? How do I do presentations? Number 2, I need a scalable demand gen channel. Cold calling, inbound marketing, channel partner, conferences, virtual shows, whatever. I need something to know that when I start adding 2 or 3 reps, we have a defined process to get meetings and sales, okay? That's not like relying on our board's network, right? Number 3, I got to nail my pricing model and my compensation plan structure. That, like, am I paying my reps $150,000 a year, half base, half commission? What is it based on? How's my pricing plan work? Like, doesn't matter during product market fit. Now, critical. So those are the things I need to work out. And as long as our leading indicators, and we just said, hey, listen, if my SDRs can book 5 meetings a week and they can convert to opportunities at 20% and customers at 30%, and the average deal size is $30,000, if I'm seeing that happening, bam, let's go. If I've got a scalable demand gen, let's go. And when it's time to go, it's not like pretty much everyone I meet at that point. So that's when you're ready to scale. You've got your leading indicator of customer retention, you've got your leading indicator of unit economics. And that's your speedometer. Just keep measuring that. And now we start scaling. But every time I see entrepreneurs scale at that time, they go from having a team of 3 reps to hiring 10 reps the next month. It's so bad.
So you're saying
Jessica,
that's when they're just scaling too fast without
yeah,
having the right processes and the metrics proven
it
to.
just can't hire. There's other stuff to hire 10 reps in a month. There's a recruiting, like, do you know how many phone screens that is? How many interviews that is? Like, the average turnover for salespeople in the year is 40%. You hire 10 in a month. I've seen it attempted 50 times. Like, it never worked. I never saw it work. I mean, maybe it has. To go from 2 reps to 10 in 1 month. So it's more about a pace. Great, we're ready to scale. Let's hire 2 a month for 4 months. Let's watch the speedometer, the leading indicator of customer retention, leading indicator of unit economics. If it stays green, let's go to 4 reps a month for 4 months, and then 8 reps a month for 4 months. And if it breaks, we'll know early, because most people, the way they measure if it's working or not is the P&L, the quarterly results. The P&L, the quarterly results, that's what happened 6 months ago. That's not what's happening in your business right now. So this is just hopefully a more rigorous way to understanding when and how fast to scale.
So when you look at companies to invest in, first you need to probably see the product market fit, and then you actually help them how to then take that to the market and grow and scale successfully. Yes?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Stage 2 Capital is the first VC fund that's run and backed by sales and marketing leaders, right? So we have the sales and marketing executives from most of the country's unicorns, right? From from Atlassian to Dropbox to Asana to Yelp to even like companies like Tesla and Lyft. And we're not product people. We have to assess that they have product market fit, and hopefully I've given you some substance as how I assess that. But if you don't have go-to-market fit, great. We know how to do that, right? So that's where we usually like to come in. These days, that happens when they're roughly like $1 million in revenue. We usually, hopefully, as we start writing and talking about this more, hopefully it will happen sooner, because people will, keep in mind, I'm not advocating slower growth. I'm just advocating healthier growth. And
yes.
that, like, if you follow a methodology like this, your next month or your next quarter might be lower than if you just like hired a bunch of salespeople. But in my experience, your success rate and your actual end of year result is higher than if you just hire a bunch of salespeople without having these things in place.
Right, because then you're burning cash there, and you might not have enough to last, and that would be a disaster. So I understand. Well, this is great. And any other tips you want to share with those entrepreneurs out there who are really trying to make it work during this time?
Yeah, I mean, just like, I went to MIT for business school, and I remember my professors would tell me it's very hard to understand what a good, successful entrepreneur is, but we really believe that the mentality is being a paranoid optimist. And I think today, especially, these are unprecedented times, as we've talked about at length. Being a paranoid optimist is a good thing. And just try not to be overly attached to, oh, if this never happened, if we were on such a good track in February, if this and that, and just, this is opportunity. You know what I mean? As long as we, it's a sad time. Like, there's a lot of like tragedy happening around us. Believe me, a lot of my friends are affected. But we have a role in society as entrepreneurs to keep the economy going, to create value, to change our world to be a better place. And just try to disattach yourself from the investments that you made in the last year that are no longer relevant, and reinvent your story that's founding on your shoulders. So hopefully that will lead to a happier, more optimistic place.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for being on the show and sharing your thoughts. Definitely look forward to hearing more from you as you're investing and helping companies to successfully scale in the Valley.
Thanks, Jessica. I appreciate having me on.
There you have it. Take it up with Jessica Lee, Mark Roberge from Stage 2 Capital.